Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Andrea Popp, and I support outreach activities for the National Foundation's Policy Office. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to the Fall 2023 NSF Virtual Grants Conference. I am now pleased to present this session, which will cover NSF's Directorate for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships.
Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be here representing the new Directorate of Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships at the National Science Foundation to talk about the mission and interesting opportunities within this directorate. I am Tiaga Nandagopal. I am a Division Director of the Innovation and Technology Ecosystems Division, which is one of the two divisions within this new directorate. It goes without saying that NSF, as the premier science funding agency in this nation for the last 70 years, has been behind some of the fundamental breakthroughs that have transformed our world. Some of those are listed here today, and I'm sure these touch your life in every single day in every way possible. You can imagine what the future would look like if we were to be able to do this much better and faster at scale across a range of scientific disciplines going forward. That's the potential and promise that excites NSF, and that's the reason why we at TIP, as a new part of the agency, are super excited about what we can do here as well. A reminder about what NSF's mission is. Most people think the NSF's mission is to promote just the progress of science, but what is less clear to many is that NSF also has an additional couple of sentences, phrases, in our mission that speak about the promotion of the progress of science for the sake of advancing the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and also to secure the national defense. So these are the three pillars of our mission. If you imagine the first one as promoting the idea of use-inspired and foundational research, the second two pieces talk about the broader impacts that research ought to have. And that is also akin to what one calls translation of the research outcomes. So we want to have an active and healthy balance between the scientific research, the curiosity-driven research, and the fundamental research that we want to support as a nation for longer-term benefits and value, and translate them into what the community and the society will see in practical terms. NSF is tasked with pursuing all of the above. And with that in mind, NSF's latest strategic plan has identified three strategic priorities for us over the next 10 years. One is to strengthen the investments that we have been making all these years into continuing to expand the frontiers of knowledge and technology that we are all passionate about and we really think are a vital piece of maintaining this nation's competitiveness. The second priority is to ensure that these investments in science and technology that we make do not leave anyone behind. We really want to tap into the talent among the missing millions that by enhancing and broadening the participation in the science and technology enterprise through robust interventions and capacity building efforts. The third strategic priority that we have is to pursue the acceleration of outcomes from research into what we think of as societal impact by accelerating this technology and innovation growth vectors, not purely entirely just by NSF efforts alone, but also by creating innovative cross-cutting partnerships with other federal agencies, other industry sectors, and even international components. So these are the three strategic priorities that NSF has identified, and many of the programs that you will hear over this NSF Day event, and and other aspects that you come across from NSF official channels would reflect these three strategic priorities. And as you all know, NSF supports all areas of science and engineering, with the exception of human health, which is the purview of NIH. And these are the directorates that we have today at NSF, and there are cross-cutting offices such as the Office of Integrative Activities that supports EPSCoR investments, and among others, and also the Office of International Science and Engineering that handles a lot of our international efforts. Now, in addition to these science and engineering directorates, there has been an awareness around the changing landscape that we are in today, where we are facing this notion of a global competition and socioeconomic challenges that have clearly identified the fact that there are a large range of, a large segment of the population that has not participated in the economic growth of the last few decades. And we want to help tackle these major challenges that are being posed by us. And we call this a defining moment for us because we are facing multitudes of challenges in whether it's climate change or ensuring equitable access to education and healthcare, or helping build critical and resilient infrastructure that can survive this massive challenges coming in the climate change era for us. So we have to really think about what we need to do as an agency. And we believe that science and engineering really provides the answer, because we are in really benefiting today by this accelerated discovery of that has come across a range of scientific disciplines, fueled by data and emerging technologies. And we have a great and a fantastic understanding across the country that the public and private sectors need to work together. Not one of them can act alone. And we want to really take advantage of it. And that's the reason why NSF has stood up a new directorate, which is a directorate that I represent here today, the Directorate of Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. This is a new horizontal, just like the other offices that you see below, the integrative activities in international science and engineering. Unlike them, we are structured as a directorate. The complexity of the programs that we are handling are a testament to why that is the case, and we will go over some of those programs here in the rest of the hour. This directorate, I want to emphasize, does not exist to serve a specific community. It really is there to support the entire science and engineering enterprise that NSF funds today across these different scientific disciplines that you see listed here. And we really want to aim to scale up and strengthen the use-inspired R&D that is funded today by many of these directorates, and also to enhance and increase the level of translation that is happening from research activities into societal impact. So that's our goal. So our mission can be summarized as follows. We want to harness the nation's vast, diverse talent pool to advance critical and emerging technologies. And why we want to do so? We want to do that in order to address the pressing societal and economic challenges that we face as a nation today. And by doing so, we will accelerate the translation of research results from lab and market to society, which will help us achieve greater US competitiveness. It will grow the US economy by doing so. And we will have trained a diverse workforce that will benefit from the future high-wage jobs that these growth from emerging technologies will bring. So that is our directorate's core mission. And a great way to summarize this is to think of this model where many of you may have seen this, like the public funds, such as the federal government and other agency investments, typically come at the earlier stage of the research cycle, where we fund much of the foundational and use-inspired R&D. There are multiple disciplines here within NSF that really rely on the National Science Foundation to support more than half of the funding that is directed towards universities in those disciplines. So we take a heavy share as a public agency to support that kind of high risk, for curiosity-driven and use-inspired R&D. And private sector really comes in at the very end and really looks at products that are ready to go to market and scales them up, makes them better and bigger, and they invest substantially more money in the product and solution development space. However, there is a great valley of death in between, where we often find the investments lacking. And we have seen a range of efforts from NSF, such as the SBIR program, and many universities and seed ventures and angel funds and others have tried to fill this valley of death through specific efforts. What is often not seen is that the level of support, unfortunately, is not as robust and strong as what you see on either end. So the valley of death still persists. And that is something we really want to change. Our goal is to not have this valley of death exist anymore. Hopefully, by within a decade of our founding, hopefully by 2032, we really hope that the narrative is no longer about the valley of death, but rather about the so-called ramp of opportunity. What we really want to do is to bridge this entire gap that exists between the investment in R&D and what the private sector does very well in product and solution development by providing an array of programs and a scaffolding and a fabric of support to would-be entrepreneurs, faculty members, and anyone who's interested in saying, I have an idea, how do I help the society with this? Help them see the range of pathways that can help them move to that impact space from the lab outcome space. So that is our real passion, and we really believe that within a decade, we should be able to get there. If there's one thing that you can take away from this conversation today, we want you to know that this is the space that tips us. We are not trying to take away funds from any existing programs. We are not trying to replace the role of the private sector. What we are trying to do essentially is to fill a gap that is a vital need today to be addressed. And as the nation figures out how to remain at the top of the economic competitiveness spectrum. Okay. What does this look like? It essentially means that we have to pivot ourselves. When I say we meaning not just NSF, but the community we represent. That's you, all of you. We want to pivot from being a largely investigator-driven academic research team-based approach to identifying breakthroughs. And we want to pivot in a little bit more into identifying users who have real concrete problems and engage them in co-designing real market-based solutions that can be implemented in real world and have a way of solving those real problems. So we don't want it to be all on one end. So we're not really trying to switch everybody from one end to the other end. We really want this to be a coexistence model where we have the academic curiosity-driven research that still exists, but we also want to see a large fraction of this market-based, demand-driven, use-inspired R&D happening in parallel with the curiosity-driven research. So that is our interest. And we really want to do this by building and accelerating diverse innovation ecosystems, by enhancing opportunities for technology translation and development, and to look at workforce development in parallel, right? So I want to make this point very, very clear, right? We are a slightly different part of NSF, but that does not mean that we are removed from NSF. We are part of NSF, and our audience is all of you, the entire scientific engineering expertise, the community. And we really want you to understand that we are here to help you. And if you are passionate about making an impact with your research, with your knowledge, take advantage of what we have to offer. And I'm going to cover a few of those offerings here. These by no means are exhaustive. These are not the only ones. We have a range of other efforts that we are currently, we have it on the street. And there are more that we are spinning up as a new directorate. We are tasked with developing more by Congress, and we are going to do so. And we want you to pay attention to what opportunities we're going to be putting out, and allow guidance on how to become more aware of those as towards the end of this discussion. So let me walk you through some of the programs that we have currently on offer. So I'm going to focus on the innovation ecosystems piece. And the first program I will highlight is a program that we moved into the TIP Directorate. It started about a couple of years before we were set up. This is the Convergence Accelerator. This is a very unique program. And I'm going to use this word unique program for everything that we say. This is non-traditional within NSF. It tries to build transdisciplinary teams through the notion of convergence research and identifying ways in which cross-disciplinary teams can talk to each other because they come speaking different languages, even though they may be using similar terms. The definitions may be different across different communities. And we want to find a process that can stimulate this notion of co-design and co-creation, and they can drive themselves very quickly towards implementing a practical solution for a given societal challenge. So the program is designed in two phases. One, it has a planning phase where the teams really get together to learn how to work together as a group and how to message and how to design a project taking into account user needs for a given societal challenge. And then once they have identified, demonstrated that they are capable of functioning as a team, well-knit team, there's the implementation phase where they have to take the chosen design and really make a prototype that is ready to function and probably even field deployment ready within 24 months. And we give up to $5.75 million for this particular activity. Now, we have gone through multiple tracks. We have tested this model across a range of tracks. So far, we have had 10 tracks that have implemented. We are currently in the process of announcing the awards for 3 new tracks that in the 2023 cohort. As you can see on this list, there's a range of projects that are topics that are covered here. And what we have done is to stress test the process of co-ideation and cross-collaboration and driving a high-functioning multidisciplinary team towards developing and demonstrating practical solutions in each of these domains. So we have this proven model, and what we are hoping right now is to expand this Convergence Accelerator program to a national level footprint to support a lot more teams and 10 times more teams and projects. So this is called the regionalization effort, and we have made some announcements recently around that. So expect a large set of announcements to flow through in the next year or so, and you should be ready to take advantage of this particular program coming to your states very soon. So be ready for this one. So, and the second big program that I would like to highlight as a unique offering from this new directorate is our flagship program called the NSF Regional Innovation Engines. We call it in short as an NSF engine. And the word engine essentially is deliberately chosen because we think of the awardees from this program as being the linchpins and catalysts of economic development and growth within regions that have never benefited from having a vibrant ecosystem, such as the ones you find in Silicon Valley or Boston or in Austin or Pittsburgh for that matter. And the goal of this program essentially is to go to regions that do not have these vibrant ecosystems today that lead to organic creation of startups and companies and ideas that are world-changing in some sense and highly impactful. So we want to seed different parts of the country with investments, and hopefully over a 10-year period, they will transform that region. They'll succeed in transforming those regions to become these next hubs of innovation and economic growth, right? And the salient aspect of this particular program is that this is a 10-year award. And we are willing to invest up to $160 million on this. And again, today is December 6th. We expect to have announcements fairly soon around the first cohort of these engines. And we also have a set of planning awards, we call them development awards, that we have issued already to many, many parts of the country where they are already in the process of planning. And many of you in the audience may have been aware of it or are already part of it. And again, this is a map of the development awards that we already issued. And what you can see here is, number one, they are in places of the parts of the country that you really know are lacking those vibrant innovation ecosystems. And again, not just limited to the coast, but they are very much in the heartland of the country and in the mountain west and so forth. But what you also see on the right is that they span a large range of technology areas, many of which have direct connections with the pressing societal challenges of today, whether it's climate resilience, sustainable energy, or figuring out ways to build a robust bioeconomy or advanced agriculture. These are topics that matter to this nation. And that is the goal of this program, right? We really want to know which problems matter to a region that they really would like to get solved, and how inspired are they in bringing together a coalition of multiple sector stakeholders together to identify ways to drive themselves towards this common purpose of finding such solutions. So that's the goal of this particular program. Now, in conjunction with this development awards, we also have a secondary program called Enhancing Partnerships to Increase Innovation Capacity. This is an active call out on the street today. So if you're not aware of it, please look it up right now. And there are opportunities to submit for it. And this program essentially is aiming to provide training and networking support for under-resourced institutions, often that don't receive much funding from NSF, to help build new pathways for them to be effective partners with high capacity institutions, whether it's the company or your neighboring R1 or a federal agency or a national lab in your area. So we really want to bring these institutions into the fold of these innovation ecosystems and have these institutions contribute their might and effort into building and sustaining these regional ecosystems. So we've already awarded 50 teams in the first cohort last year. And as I mentioned, there is an active opportunity on the street that I encourage you all to tap into. Now, putting these together, if you look at an investment that we are making, like a $160 million investment over a 10-year period into an engine, our goal is that they form the basis of a regional ecosystem. We clearly are not under any expectation that they themselves are the ecosystem, right? But they're the catalyst that will help the ecosystem grow by pulling these different pieces. So we have the EPIC program that I just described. We also have a builder platform that is going to support these awardees in the efforts to scale up this. And then this scaling happens, right? We really will bring in additional programmatic efforts, such as adding support for venture funding and so forth, that will help these businesses grow faster and develop into these economic powerhouses within those regions. So that's our bigger message that we want to convey. So this is an ambitious program that for NSF and definitely for the TIP Directorate. And I encourage you all, even if you are not directly applying to this, there are numerous opportunities for you to be a partner. Even if not at the application stage, you should be able to join any engine downstream, even post-award, as we have structured the program to operate in different phases. And we expect to see the program grow in its footprint and scale and scope in terms of both in terms of the partnerships it's creating and also in terms of the impact it's going to have across the region. So with those two highlight programs around innovation ecosystems, let me pivot a little bit to some of the programs we have around tech translation and development. Many of you may have already be very aware of the iCore program, the Innovation Core program. This was started in 2012 by NSF, and through the 12 years of existence, we have trained several thousands, tens of thousands of teams that have gone through this training. It's best explained as a experiential entrepreneurial education that will help identify a prospective entrepreneur how to understand if their idea is ready for a startup, right? Or in any kind of social impact activity. Are they ready to go out of the lab? It helps you validate this. Often we find entrepreneurs thinking that, would-be entrepreneurs thinking that, oh, this is the best idea since sliced bread, but then they find that reality is often different. And instead of having them discover that through a very painful process, this particular training in the iCore program helps them understand and how to do this in a more measured and structured fashion, in a very scientific fashion, if I may say. And there are multiple hubs around the country that provide this today. And these hubs are supported with up to $3 million per year for 5 years. And the hubs provide training for different teams, and this is a separate track. So there's a hubs funding track, and there's the teams funding. Each individual team gets up to $50,000 for a 7-week immersive training period that will help them understand how to be a better entrepreneur, so to speak. Now, a parallel program is the Partnership for Innovation, which helps researchers to understand how to transition their ideas into market-ready products. So these could be to to understand the commercial application or to facilitate industry adoption. So there are two different phases. There's a technology translation phase and there's a research partnership piece, and each of those are funded up to the amounts that you see on the slide. The one thing I will encourage you to think about is this is a program that is not very well utilized, and we encourage you to look into this program because it really helps you take advantage of the great ideas coming out of your institution and prepare them for the next phase as you mature the technology into the next phase of the technology readiness levels. This is funding that's available for you to take advantage of to do that. Now, one of our great programs that we take a lot of pride in is the America Seed Fund program, again known as the Small Business Innovation SBIR and the Small Business Tech Transfer STTR programs. So this is a program that started at NSF in the early 70s, and it has been so successful that it has been adopted by the entire federal government. So every agency has an equivalent version of SBIR, STTR program. The NSF program is very unique in that it is not mission driven. Anyone can apply. We fund everything from deep space technologies to molecular genetics. So we fund a whole range of topics, and we are open to supporting anyone with an excellent idea. And it's as simple as submitting a 2-page project pitch to get started. And there's a range of phases. You get cumulative funding of up to $2 million. So that's a program that we encourage any entrepreneur within an academic institution or anywhere else to take advantage of. And there is a new effort that we started last year as part of the TIP Directorate. Often when we think of translation, most people think of commercialization. And commercialization typically means starting a company, a startup, and so forth. And some of the programs we just saw, like the SBIR program, for example, definitely speaks specifically to that particular pathway. However, we want to caution everyone that that is not the only way to translation. There are many, many different ways in which one can demonstrate impact. And it could be around how do you develop better policy. It could be around intellectual property. It could be around startups. It could be around developing open source ecosystems or data sharing, right? So there are range of pathways in which one can demonstrate impact. And this particular program is exploring ways to support open source ecosystems. Open source ecosystems have been phenomenally successful in the computing industry, and we believe that a similar approach may actually be very, very disruptive in a beneficial manner to increase the level of innovation in many other scientific sectors as well. So that is the goal of this program, to take budding open source ecosystems and essentially scale them up and provide a robust source of support for them to make them more secure, increase coordination, and identify better ways to impact. So we are funding up to $1.8 million in total. Anyone can apply, and this is an opportunity that's open currently. Since many of you are at universities, you can empathize when I say that institutions of higher education typically tend to prioritize scholarly activities more than translation activities. If you're on a tenure committee, or if you're a faculty member, or you're a tech transfer office, this is a refrain that we hear, that the publications are more valued than somebody pursuing a tech transfer opportunity within that institution, or from someone trying to do a startup. And as a result of that prioritization that has existed in over many years now, what we have noticed is that institutions themselves, many of them, tend to underinvest in the capacity and infrastructure needed for supporting the translational research. And since TIP really is aiming to scale up the pace and the level of translation research, we have developed this program called Accelerating Research Translation. which seeks to build capacity and infrastructure that has been often neglected for many years now in many of these institutions. And we want to utilize this increased capacity to help change the narrative inside the institution to say, we have the capacity to support translation activities. Why don't we pursue that as well as a co-equal of scholarly work? So that's the goal of this program. We are funding up to $6 million per award over 4 years. We will be making those announcements very soon about the first cohort, and the next cohort is going, the opportunity for it is going to be opening up very soon as well. So I really encourage you, and as you can see, what you see on the right side, the opportunity is available primarily to academic institutions, and I want you to really take advantage of it. Since the mandate for this new directorate came from the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022 that was passed in August of 2022 by Congress, one of the callouts that we received was to ensure that the US maintains its leadership in a range of critical and emerging technology areas. Congress identified 10 critical technology areas, and they also identified 5 challenge areas across the societal, national, and geostrategic spaces. We are mandated to keep updating this roadmap on an ongoing basis. So NSF has issued an RFI, request for information, to collect this feedback from the community, which is you, not just looking at the competitive needs, but also the societal needs as well as the workforce gaps that exist today across a range of R&D partnerships and investments. So this is something that we encourage you to contribute to and pass the message along. And this is our way of trying to stay current overall with this process. I want to turn to the third piece of our efforts in terms of these new programs that we are developing to address our mission, which is workforce development. As you are aware, and you probably have heard already today, there is a directorate within NSF, the Directorate of STEM Education, which focuses heavily on understanding how to best deliver research, and they support a range of pathways across the K-12 all the way to community college and graduate studies programs. Now, we are trying, within the TIP Directorate, we are working in close collaboration with the Education Directorate, EDU Directorate, to identify the gaps that exist today in among those pathways, and also the changes in society that are happening, the pivots that are happening today, as we saw very clearly during the COVID pandemic duration. We have started seeing that people don't want to just pursue a college for college's sake. There is an increasing demand for what is the value that this education is giving us. There is requests that for career transitions that are happening, and people are finding that they will be, especially with the onset of AI, they are going to be forced into some of those changes, even if they are not ready or willing to do so, right? So we launched this program called Experiential Learning for Emerging and Novel Technologies to, number one, address the challenges that we have today in terms of this workforce gap in emerging technology fields. And number two, to expand the opportunities for people, not just at the K-12 and college level, but also folks who are already in the professional workforce, to identify ways in which they can pivot into these emerging technology areas. So this is an exciting program for us, and we have received a very healthy number of proposals over the first 2 rounds. In the first round, we issued roughly $19 million to 27 such projects over the 3-year period each, and I think we expect the next round to come up soon. And again, I encourage everyone to stay tuned. And as with many TIP programs, this is not something that is very specifically limited to academia, right? Art was the only program that I described so far that is limited to academia primarily. Everything else, we are intentionally leaving it open to business, industry, and nonprofits to participate as well. And this is one such program as well. And we encourage collaborations and partnership building between government and government agencies in the state and regional levels as well. All right. And again, we are identifying gaps, and we are expecting the community to tell us more about these gaps. So we put out an RFI, a request for information, from the entire academic landscape to say what are the gaps that we have today and what are the roles that we have to fill. And we received a very robust set of responses, over 180 responses. And you can see on this website the link where you can see those responses. And we'll be putting out a summary of these responses that we received. And we hope to be informed by these as we design new programs over the next few years. The last program that I want to highlight today is this program called Activate. So going back to the notion of ICOR helps people understand how to think like an entrepreneur and to ask the right questions to validate whether the idea that someone has is market ready or is ready for the field, so to speak. Once you decide that you are ready for it, then we really want to support such folks in pursuing that idea, the dream that they have. And this program that we launched called the Entrepreneurial Fellowships is in partnership with a nonprofit called activate.org, which has done similar activities for the Department of Energy. And what we are trying to do is to recruit entrepreneurs who have gone through basic training and provide them more in-depth support and access to research facilities and equipment to develop their prototypes. And think of this as an incubator/accelerator program. So we are giving them the guidance and support and facilities and everything else to scale up their ideas and help them go out, become very more successful over a 2-year period. So this is our first year of support, and we expect this program to continue. So please stay tuned and sign up to our mailing list. So just to summarize, right? So we are about accelerating research to impact, and we do so by supporting programs across this range of these 3 different pillars, from innovation ecosystems to technology translation and through workforce development. Right? And we are doing so with partnerships as the foundation, right? And again, just to highlight some key examples, just in the semiconductor space alone, in the last year, we have announced major partnerships with companies like Intel and Micron that cut across in investments in the R&D space and in the workforce development space, because those are the needs of the industry today. And we are working with them to fill those gaps, by bringing industry funding and coupling them and strengthening our existing programs with our investments as well. So that's something that we intend to do across the entire technology space. And I want you to, again, this is a summary of all the different programs and opportunities that we have today, just to show you what you can be tapping into. And if you are not familiar with these, I encourage you to learn more. And how do you do that? You learn up by signing up for our newsletter and stay tuned to our upcoming events that we will announce on this newsletter. You can also look up on our website at nsf.gov/tip. And we will be doing a lot more outreach and engaging with you. And we want you to help provide your ideas and inputs to us. Please email us at any time. We are very responsive. We take a lot of pride in responding quickly. And we would appreciate any feedback we can get from you offline. But definitely now this session is open, and I'm happy to take questions from all of you now, and we can have a good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to take just a few minutes that we have remaining and go through some of the questions that you all have submitted. And if you do have more, you can, continue typing those out. But I am just gonna start. So I understand that NSF money can't pay for non-US resources, but what about jointly funded projects? So if a colleague in Europe has funding from the UN, and I want to work with him to get funded by NSF, is this encouraged or is it problematic because it makes reviews, et cetera, more difficult?
I want to say that we have many partnership projects where we sign agreements with external funding agencies in other countries to help their researchers work on joint proposals to NSF. I'd say that's when there's no guaranteed funding available. but we are always open for this particular specific question, right? If the colleague already has funding from you and you want to work with them, you are welcome to submit a joint proposal to NSF and essentially highlight the fact that this other research was already funded and make a case for why your research is important, the way you normally submit an NSF proposal. There is no real concerns around reviews not being difficult in this particular case. So, and in fact, we encourage you to reach out to reviewers who already may have had funding. I think there may be some sensitivities around intellectual property and others if there's that angle in the research. If it's pure scientific research that doesn't have those aspects involved, then it's fairly simple. If there are intellectual property issues that are at stake, then we encourage you to reach an agreement of some sort and include that agreement as part of the proposal documentation.
Okay, great. So next question is about the final Type 2 engine awardees have not been announced. When will they be announced?
Yes, we are very eager to actually say that out as well. We are just working through a set of logistics around making sure the awardees are all able to take in and handle the large amount of funding that's coming their way. Once the due diligence is done, I think we are in the near final stages. So I'm expecting a response, a public announcement very soon.
Okay, great. Next question is, why was the 2023 SIBR/STTR solicitation window extended? Will there be delays in the release of the 2024 solicitation?
I think the current solicitation on the street is essentially the deadlines were extended to allow for the new solicitation to be published. There are some, we're just trying to resolve some open issues that came out of the passage of some recent legislation, Section 174. So we're trying to resolve some of those open questions and try to get clarity for our proposal community before publishing it. And that has taken a little bit longer than we had hoped for because of the extensive consultations within the government that we had to do. So please expect the solicitation to be on the street fairly soon.
All right. And then the next question is asking about the art program. Can you tell us more about that? How is it going? And is academia responding to the program?
Yes. So this is a program that we have gotten a significant amount of interest from the academic communities. And in fact, I can say this, and we got more than twice the number of proposals that we had expected. And we have actually tried to find a way to fund correspondingly more proposals as well. Just to make sure the community feels that we are giving them the adequate support given the excitement that they have around this. We are going to be making an announcement within the next week or so. So please stay tuned to see the list of all the institutions that have gotten the awards and who is collaborating with them to mentor them to meet the goals of this program. And we will be having a future funding opportunity within the next year as well. So again, we will be having multiple workshops and conferences that we will be publishing in our newsletter. So please sign up to our newsletter and so stay tuned for those details.
Okay, excellent. And then the next question is, what about multi-state, multi-region partnerships within the Engines platform, or an ecosystem that is developing to train workforce and potential entrepreneurs that accepts global startups?
Yeah, the Engines program portfolio, which you will see soon once we announce them, are very encouraging of these kinds of partnerships. Whether they're multi-state or multi-region, and each of these engines have a very strong, robust workforce development program and an entrepreneurship support program. And remember, the goal of the program is to catalyze the region's growth, right? And that growth can come from businesses that are starting in the region. It can also come from businesses that are so excited by the opportunities the region presents, and they decide to move into the region, right? This could be from anywhere around the world or a nation. And all of those are part and parcel of the larger thinking that an engine is going to demonstrate as part of its activities.
Okay. And then if the proposal is submitted with a subaward submission, Can the subaward be declined and the original grant be funded? If yes, how? If yes, so how the part of the subaward will be handled in such case? Sorry, I got jumbled on that one.
Yeah, I think it's a very technical question that is probably best dealt with by our grants folks. But I can tell you that it is possible. I would defer the second part of the question, how the sub-awards will be handled in those cases, to our grants officers and others, who may be able to provide better advice. And sometimes it's very specific on the nature of the activity and the level of investment involved, and how critical are those activities to the larger award itself. So I think I would not want to give very generic advice. The possibility exists, but the specifics would depend on the situation.
Okay, great. Next question regarding the SIBR/STTR solicitation. Will applicants be ill-advised to start writing technical portions of an application, or can they expect changes to the requirements for this section to be minor?
Well, right. I think without saying too much, I think, if you look at the past history of the solicitation, it has not really changed much in some of the technical portions of it. So, I would still, I think you should still develop the application and double check the requirements once the solicitation gets posted. And Andrea, just a question. I think when the power glitch happened, many of the questions that were open moved into the answered column. So maybe we should take some questions from there.
Yes, I was wondering about that. Okay. All right, let's take a look, because I noticed that as well. So thanks everyone. So okay, I am going to start. Let's see. All right. Okay. So TIP has used the BAA mechanism along with a separate BAA system to issue past funding opportunities. Is it the Directorate's intention to continue to maintain and use a separate submission system rather than leveraging research.gov? The BAA submission poses a number of challenges to the research administration community.
Right. I think it was an experiment that we tried. And again, TIP is all about reducing barriers and eliminating, any such constraints that people may feel, especially in the process of attracting non-traditional applicants to NSF to help partake in this innovation ecosystem opportunities we are creating. And the BAA was one approach. We did get a lot of this feedback as well. So as you can imagine, when we did the engines program, we switched to using r.gov. I think going forward, we will always give option to use the r.gov platform as one pathway for those who are comfortable with it, and the BAA submission may be an option for others who are willing to try this instead of r.gov. So I don't think we'll be forcing people into the BAA mechanisms directly. So remember, the BAA is different from the BAA system, right? I think the submission system, has some challenges. The BAA mechanism is actually a broad, federally accepted funding model, and TIP will be using that as well as the solicitation process that you are familiar with in NSF to do this. But in terms of the systems of submission, r.gov will be offered as a choice for our things going forward.
Okay, great. And then the next question: what are your recommendations regarding building partnerships with industry and government sectors? Where should I start if the University Office of Research does not have guidelines for that?
Right. I think it is a conversation that you need to have with your deans and your school college leaders. If the Office of Research doesn't have some support for it, then I would definitely want to know why. If I'm a faculty member, I would like to know why that's the case, right? Especially given that every other institution is essentially making sure that they have a major level of support to help the faculty members succeed in these conversations. So that's where I would start. And I think sometimes it's also a personal relationship thing. So if you know people in these companies, these agencies, then you can develop that relationship. But it definitely makes it easier if you have institutional support. And I would start with the office.
I think we're possibly having another technical issue. So it's like NSF lost power for a moment. So if you all could just please be patient, very much appreciate it.
My apologies.
No, it's fine. It's fine. This is one of the fun things about Zoom meetings.
You
All right.
expect that you're in the office and things should work fine.
Yes, that's the expectation, right? All right. So let me pull up the Q&A and see if we can pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so this was the next question. Can you apply for the NSF engine that is upcoming if you did not win an NSF engine development award or builder grant? If so, what are your chances equal to those who were previously awarded?
Right. I believe that this also ties to another question that I was looking for as the train left the station on the engines. And the answer is no. We are in the process of developing the next solicitation for the engines. You can expect some announcements on those within the next few months. I do think that there's no significant disadvantage for the development awardees versus somebody who's coming in new. I will I do expect folks to be able to talk to the winners of the current round and learn from them as to what made them tick. We hope to actually share some more lessons from the first competition in various public forums and outreach opportunities. So again, I'll say stay tuned to our tip mailing list. You will see those outreach opportunities come through, and you should use those as a way to learn more about what can make for a successful engines proposal.
Great. And if you happen to have the tip mailing list email, you can drop it in the chat for everyone.
I will do that. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So we can just do that and share it with folks. And then while you're doing that, another question. So a requirement mandated of NSF in the recent CHIPS and Science Act is currently being planned. Under the Act, NSF must address the ethical and societal considerations of all its research, regardless of the size of the grant or the intellectual field in the peer review process. According to the legislation, NSF is supposed to consult with the community and have this plan in place by August 2024. What is the progress on this new mandate? How is NSF addressing it? And can you provide any information on what researchers can expect when it comes to applying for future grants around this requirement in the future?
Right. So this is something that we are working on, and as you all may be following, while the CHIPS and Science Act authorized the formation of TIP, the actual level of funding to help support some of those activities are guided by the appropriations process. That's the process of passing the annual budgets. There is no specific money appropriated for TIP in this act. And so there are various portions of the act that call on NSF to do certain activities, and these are among those. So we have plans to roll out something to support this, how to ensure the responsible development of technologies that follow these ethical and social considerations, and that hopefully we will hear soon once the congressional budget numbers are finalized for this fiscal year. So I would expect you to stay tuned to it. I just posted the link to the tip mailing list in the chat. I encourage you to stay tuned. And again, this is something that's on our radar. We are actively working on it, and we expect to have some news soon.
Great. Next question. If my research project is collaborative and I have industrial partnership, the project will use existing algorithms in the industrial partnership domain. Does something like that applicable to the TIP, or do you seek novel research algorithms as a must component beside the application?
Right. So I think this particular question is more not necessarily specific to TIP. This is actually more of a broader NSF question. So in any NSF research project, if we welcome industrial partnerships in all those projects. We have a mechanism called GOLI, grant opportunities for academic liaisons with industry. That, and there are many others. But the research must be novel. You are able to use existing tools that can help you succeed in the research in achieving those novel outcomes. So it doesn't matter if there's an existing algorithm. Not everything has to be completely new from scratch, especially if it helps you get the novel questions answered.
Okay, thank you. We just have a couple of minutes left. So Next question is there a way to obtain feedback on the NSF PFI project proposal summary to ensure it aligns with the program's interests?
Yes, I think you should reach out to the program officer, the cognizant program officers who are listed on the solicitation, and they can set up a time to give you feedback.
Okay, great. So we are about at the end of our session. Again, I apologize for technical issues. This session is going to be on demand on our website. So please just check that out if you missed anything. Have a great rest of your day and goodbye.